There are battles that never announce themselves. You wake up feeling exhausted without reason. Your peace disappears, your focus weakens, and your faith begins to shake. Many people spend their lives fighting visible problems while ignoring the invisible war happening within them. But what if the greatest protection was never fear, superstition, or rituals? What if the strongest shield has always been a heart anchored in unwavering faith? Today, I want to reveal 3 powerful shield prayers. Not as magical formulas, but as spiritual disciplines that strengthen your mind, your soul, and your connection with God so deeply that darkness finds no place to remain. Before we speak about protection, we must first understand where the battle truly begins. Many people imagine that every spiritual attack starts somewhere outside of them. They become preoccupied with what others might be doing, who is speaking against them, or whether unseen forces are working in secret. Their attention is constantly directed outward. But the first battlefield is rarely outside, it is within. Long before fear takes shape in your circumstances, it quietly enters your thoughts. Long before discouragement appears in your actions, it has already whispered into your heart. This is why the condition of your inner world matters more than most people realize. If your mind is ruled by fear, then fear becomes the lens through which you see everything. Every delay feels like a curse. Every hardship feels like abandonment. Every unexpected obstacle becomes evidence that darkness has won. But when your heart is rooted in God, the same circumstances no longer have the power to define you. The storm may still rage around you, but it cannot create a storm within you unless you allow it. This is something many people misunderstand about spiritual protection. They search for extraordinary methods while neglecting ordinary faithfulness. They look for secret formulas, hoping that a particular phrase or ritual will guarantee safety. Yet, throughout Scripture, we see that God repeatedly calls His people to trust, obedience, humility, and perseverance. Protection is not merely about being rescued from danger. It is about becoming the kind of person who remains faithful even when danger appears. Imagine a fortress with strong walls but an open gate. No matter how thick the walls are, the enemy does not need to break them down if the entrance has been left unguarded. In the same way, your thoughts are often the gate to your spiritual life. If fear, bitterness, pride, resentment, or despair are welcomed and allowed to remain, they slowly weaken your peace. Not because they are stronger than God, but because they distract your attention from Him. The greatest victories of darkness are often not dramatic events. They are the quiet moments when a believer begins to doubt God's presence, God's goodness, or God's promises. This is why the first discipline is not panic but awareness. Watch your thoughts. Observe where your attention rests. Ask yourself each day, what am I feeding? Am I feeding fear, or am I feeding faith? Whatever you nourish grows stronger. If you continually meditate on everything that threatens you, your anxiety will become larger than your confidence in God. But if you meditate on His faithfulness, His truth begins to reshape the way you respond to every challenge. The enemy cannot easily conquer a heart that refuses to surrender its peace. There is remarkable strength in a calm spirit. Calmness is not weakness. It is evidence of trust. Anyone can remain confident when life is easy, but genuine faith reveals itself when uncertainty surrounds you. A peaceful heart declares that your security does not depend on perfect circumstances, but on the One who holds every circumstance in His hands. This is where the first shield begins. Not outside you, but within you. Once you recognize that the first battlefield is within, the next question becomes obvious. How do you guard your heart? The answer is not by trying to control every circumstance around you. It is by surrendering yourself completely to God. This is the first shield prayer. Not a prayer that demands life unfold according to your plans, but a prayer that willingly places your plans into God's hands. Many people pray because they want God to change their situation. Few pray because they are willing to let God change them. Yet transformation is where true protection begins. There is a quiet strength in surrender that the world often mistakes for weakness. People think surrender means giving up. In reality, it means giving over. You are not handing your life to fear, you are placing it into the care of the one who sees what you cannot. When you no longer insist that everything happen according to your own understanding, your heart begins to rest. Peace enters because trust has taken the place of anxiety. Think about how much energy is wasted trying to control the uncontrollable. We worry about tomorrow before it arrives. We replay yesterday as though regret can rewrite it. We imagine countless possibilities that never happen. Little by little, our minds become exhausted. But the soul was never designed to carry the weight of absolute control. That burden belongs to God alone. Surrender simply means acknowledging this truth every single day. This first shield prayer is not complicated. It is honest. It says, Father, I trust you more than I trust my own understanding. Guide my thoughts, my decisions, and my steps. If my plans are not your plans, give me the humility to let them go. If I face difficulty, give me courage instead of fear. If I receive blessings, keep me humble enough to remember where they came from. Such a prayer changes the person who prays it. It softens pride. It quiets panic. It replaces self-reliance with dependence on God. Notice something remarkable. A person who has truly surrendered becomes difficult to manipulate. Fear loses one of its greatest weapons because fear thrives on the illusion that everything depends on you. Pride also begins to lose its grip because you stop believing that your own wisdom is sufficient for every challenge. Even temptation becomes easier to recognize because your deepest desire is no longer personal gain but faithful obedience. This is why humility is one of the strongest forms of spiritual armor. The humble person does not need to prove anything. They do not panic when misunderstood. They do not collapse when circumstances change. Their confidence is rooted in something far deeper than public approval or temporary success. Their identity rests in God, not in the shifting opinions of the world. Many imagine that spiritual protection comes from saying the right words. But words without a surrendered heart are only sounds. God is not looking for perfect speeches. He is looking for willing hearts. A simple prayer spoken with genuine faith carries more weight than many impressive words spoken without trust. The power is not found in the length of the prayer, but in the sincerity of the one who offers it. As surrender becomes a daily practice, something beautiful begins to happen. You stop waking each morning expecting disaster. You stop interpreting every obstacle as defeat. Instead, you begin asking, Lord, what are you teaching me today? That single question changes everything. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to grow. Every delay becomes an invitation to trust. Every unanswered question becomes another reason to draw closer to God instead of drifting away. The one who kneels before God each day finds it increasingly difficult to bow before fear. When the heart has learned to surrender, it is finally ready for the second shield. Many people believe the way to overcome darkness is to spend all of their time studying it, fearing it, or talking about it. They become consumed by what evil is doing, what the enemy might be planning, and what unseen dangers may be waiting around the corner. But consider what happens when your eyes remain fixed on darkness for too long. Even if your intention is to resist it, your attention begins to feed it. Your imagination grows restless. Your peace slowly disappears. Without realizing it, you have allowed fear to occupy the very space where faith was meant to live. The second shield prayer is different. It is not a prayer that chases darkness. It is a prayer that invites light. There is an important difference. Darkness has no existence of its own. It is simply the absence of light. When light enters a room, it does not wrestle with the darkness. It simply shines, and the darkness has no choice but to retreat. In the same way, a heart that is continually filled with God's truth leaves little room for fear, bitterness, resentment, or despair to take root. This is why prayer is never meant to be an emergency response alone. It is meant to become the atmosphere in which you live. If you only pray when you are afraid, then fear has already become your teacher. But if you pray daily, even in moments of peace, Your heart becomes familiar with God's presence long before the storm arrives. Then, when difficulty comes, you do not have to search for peace, because you have been walking in it all along. This shield prayer can be as simple as saying, "Lord, fill my heart with your truth. Remove every thought that does not come from you. Teach me to love where hatred seeks to grow. Teach me to forgive where resentment wants to remain. Teach me gratitude when my mind wants to complain. Let your light shape my thoughts, my words, and my actions today." Such a prayer does more than comfort you. It transforms the direction of your entire life. Notice how gratitude changes the soul. Two people may face the same hardship. One becomes bitter, believing life has turned against them. The other remains thankful for God's presence even in the middle of uncertainty. Their circumstances may look identical from the outside, but inwardly they are living in completely different worlds. Gratitude does not deny pain. It simply refuses to let pain become the final authority over the heart. The same is true with forgiveness. Few things drain spiritual strength like carrying resentment. Every time you replay an old wound, you allow yesterday to steal today's peace. Forgiveness does not declare that wrong actions were acceptable. It simply refuses to let those actions continue ruling your spirit. When you forgive, you are not setting evil free. You are setting your own heart free to remain in God's peace. Truth is another form of light. The world constantly offers voices that produce confusion, comparison, and fear. But God's truth has a different effect. It brings clarity where there was uncertainty. It brings courage where there was weakness. It reminds you that your identity is not determined by your failures, your past, or the opinions of others, but by the one who created you. A mind that is continually renewed by truth becomes increasingly difficult to deceive. Think of a garden. If it is left unattended, weeds do not ask permission before they appear. They simply grow wherever there is empty space. The heart is no different. If you neglect it, fear, pride, anger, and doubt slowly begin to spread. But when you intentionally plant seeds of truth, gratitude, love, patience, and mercy each day, those virtues become stronger than the weeds that once threatened to overtake them. Spiritual growth is not accidental. It is cultivated through daily choices. Many people ask why they still struggle even after praying. Sometimes the better question is this: what have you been filling your heart with after the prayer ended? A few moments of prayer cannot overcome an entire day spent feeding fear, anger, and hopelessness. The light that protects you is not merely spoken with your lips. It is carried in the way you think, the way you respond, and the way you choose to live. When God's light fills the heart, darkness finds no place to call home. After learning to surrender your heart and fill it with God's light, the third shield begins to take shape. It is the shield of standing firm with unwavering faith. This kind of faith is not loud, dramatic, or dependent on emotions. It is quiet, steady, and deeply rooted. It does not rise and fall with every circumstance. It remains anchored because its confidence is not placed in what is seen, but in the character of God. Many people believe faith is proven when everything goes well. But faith does not reveal its true strength during comfort. It reveals itself during uncertainty. Anyone can speak words of confidence when life is predictable. The greater question is this: what remains in your heart when the answers do not come as quickly as you hoped? What happens when the door stays closed longer than expected? What happens when prayers seem to echo in silence? Those are the moments that expose whether your trust depends on circumstances or on God Himself. There is a difference between believing that God exists and trusting Him completely. One is an idea held by the mind. The other is a conviction carried by the soul. Trust says, even when I cannot understand this path, I know I am not walking it alone. It refuses to measure God's faithfulness by temporary emotions. It chooses confidence even when the outcome is still hidden. This is why the third shield prayer is not a request for an easy life. It is a request for an unshakable spirit. It says, Lord, strengthen my faith so that I remain faithful whether the road is smooth or difficult. Let my confidence rest in you rather than in changing circumstances. When fear whispers, remind me of your promises. When doubt appears, teach me to stand firm. Let my heart remain steady because you are steady. Notice how different this is from the way the world often responds to trouble. The world rushes to panic because panic creates the illusion of action. But panic has never solved a single problem. It only weakens judgment and clouds wisdom. A peaceful believer is not someone who ignores reality. A peaceful believer simply refuses to allow reality to become greater than God's presence. Calmness is not denial. It is disciplined trust. Imagine a great tree standing through a violent storm. People admire its branches, but the secret of its strength is hidden beneath the ground. Its roots have grown deep over many years. The wind cannot easily destroy what has been deeply planted. Faith works the same way. The visible strength you show during difficult seasons is the result of invisible time spent with God during ordinary days. No one develops deep roots overnight. They grow through daily prayer, daily obedience, daily reflection, and daily trust. This is why consistency matters far more than intensity. Many people become passionate for a few days after hearing an inspiring message, but lasting faith is built through ordinary faithfulness. It is choosing prayer when no crisis exists. It is choosing gratitude when nothing extraordinary has happened. It is choosing integrity when no one is watching. These quiet decisions become the foundation that supports you when greater challenges arrive. Do not underestimate the influence of a steady spirit. When everyone around you is overcome by fear, your peace becomes a testimony. When others respond with anger, your patience becomes a testimony. When uncertainty fills the room, your confidence quietly points people toward hope. Sometimes, the greatest witness you can offer is not an argument, but the unshakable peace that others cannot explain. Remember that the enemy often expects believers to become discouraged before they become defeated. If your courage can be stolen, your direction can be altered. If your hope can be weakened, your purpose can begin to fade. That is why guarding your faith is not optional. It is essential. Every day you choose trust over fear, you strengthen your spiritual foundation. Every day you choose obedience over anxiety, your roots grow deeper. A heart firmly rooted in God cannot be easily moved by the storms of this world. By this point, you may begin to see something that changes the entire way you think about spiritual protection. The question is no longer, how do I become stronger than darkness? The better question is, what am I allowing to remain within me? We often imagine that the greatest threats come from outside, yet many of the deepest wounds are created by what we refuse to confront inside our own hearts. Darkness rarely begins by forcing its way into a disciplined life. More often, it looks for an open door. It searches for pride that refuses correction, bitterness that refuses forgiveness, fear that refuses trust, or spiritual neglect that slowly weakens the soul. This is why a disciplined heart becomes one of the greatest forms of protection. Think about a house that is carefully maintained. Every small crack is repaired before it becomes a larger problem. Every broken lock is replaced before someone can take advantage of it. Every weakness is addressed with wisdom instead of ignored with hope that it will somehow disappear. The same principle applies to the soul. Small compromises may seem harmless at first, but what is neglected today often becomes tomorrow's struggle. A careless word, an unchecked habit, a growing resentment, or a secret pride may appear insignificant, yet these are often the places where peace quietly begins to erode. This is why spiritual maturity is not measured by how passionately you speak about faith. It is measured by how faithfully you live it when no one is watching. Character is formed in private long before it is revealed in public. The choices you make in ordinary moments determine how you will respond in extraordinary ones. If honesty has become your daily habit, integrity will remain when temptation appears. If prayer has become your daily rhythm, peace will remain when fear knocks at your door. If humility has become your way of life, pride will struggle to find a place to grow. There is another misunderstanding that keeps many people trapped. They believe victory comes through dramatic moments alone. They wait for one powerful experience that will permanently